Fleabag earned 11 Emmy nominations this year, including Best Comedy Series. One of its other nominations is Best Directing for Comedy for Harry Bradbeer for directing the first episode of the second season. Well, first off, Harry, what was your reaction to not only your nominations for yourself, but for how much recognition Fleabag got overall this year?
Well, I was delighted, of course, and surprised, quite surprised. I mean, we did have, obviously it was a great deal more recognition than the first series got. And that made me think of what different things we'd done with the second series as opposed to the first. It made me very pleased that we had gone for a love story and gone for something that was perhaps, in some ways, whilst the first series was a series of vignettes all around Boo and the struggling with her conscience, this had a love story at the heart of it. And I wondered if that might have helped to get so much enthusiasm and kind of investment in the audience. So first of all, it made me think about that, and it made me feel delighted that we'd had another chance to make the show. And the more you work on something, the more you work with the same people, you get into where you really understand what the show is about. You understand what it wants to be. It starts to talk to you. And so it was, I guess it's a nod to how when you give something more investment, a lot more emotional investment, it seems to come together perhaps in a more coherent and satisfying way.
And, the episode you're nominated for directing is the first episode of the season, which is set mostly at this dinner party, this family dinner party for the entire cast of characters. Was it especially complex to, shoot an episode like that with so many moving parts and so many family dynamics and relationships and characters back and forth?
Well, yes, it was. I'd never done something that was just set in one place around one table. And actually shooting around a table is a kind of notoriously horrible thing for a director to have to do because it's so much about getting coverage and eye lines and all those things that can get you caught up in knots. But we just stayed, and in my heart, I stayed trying to get to the heart of the characters and the particular relationships and trying to get every single look and reaction that was required, because Phoebe's writing is very detailed. It's all about the undercurrent of feelings between people, the way people feeling very different things to what they're expressing, the way they lie beneath their masks. And so it was about capturing the dynamic and the chemistry, the geography between the family and how they had advanced since the last series, and going for all those details. And that was the challenge around one table. The problem I thought there was going to be, are we ever going to get bored being around this table? No, we weren't. And I soon decided not to move the camera in any way at all, just to keep it steady and have faith in the characters and the dialogue.
And the editing by Gary Dahlner is sort of a big part of setting the pace and the humor of the episode, the timing. And he's also nominated for an Emmy for his work on that episode. What was the process like working with him on this particular episode?
On this episode, I have a great deal of trust in Gary. His instincts are tremendous. It took, having said that, a long time for us to go around the circle of what we could do with the episode before landing where we did. At one point, we discussed, I should preface this by saying that Phoebe is in with us in that editing room from the second week. And Gary and I get together and we work on it together. And then Phoebe comes in and it's a real three-way process. And it's an amazingly happy and successful relationship as we thrash out what we think is funny and what is strong and what is emotionally arresting. We started off with ideas, some quite crazy ideas, really, like having her not address the camera at all in the first 3/4 of the film, of the episode. And we tried that. We worked on that for about a week, and then we went back to where we started. It's working with an editor, you have to trust their instincts about who in their first initial assembly on how best to set up the show, set up the characters. It's their reaction to the material. I think it's very interesting. If you've got a good editor, I'm very interested in what their reaction is to my material. I don't give them any specific guidance when I shoot it, and I don't tend to examine assemblies too closely as we go along if I trust that editor. So Gary's nomination is truly deserved, and his gut instincts are remarkable.
And of course, Phoebe Waller-Bridge is also nominated for writing that episode, and she's nominated for acting on the show and producing the show as well. What's it like collaborating with her, not just on this episode, but throughout the series, since she's not only, you're not only working with her as an actress in front of the camera, but she's also a writer and producer behind the camera as well?
It's a bizarre 2-3-way process. We've now been doing it we've done 3 shows together, Fleabag, then working on Killing Eve very closely, which of course she wrote, and now the second series of Fleabag. I guess we get into a groove. It's very alive. We have arguments. We go back and forth. I have very strong feelings on story structure and character development. She has strong feelings on a number of other things like the location. She had a very specific idea of what that location was going to be for that restaurant. And when we found it, we were so excited because it felt exactly right to both of us. Actually, we talked a lot about the restaurant scene in Goodfellas, where Joe Pesci kicks off. And that, I think it was called the Coconut Lounge, the red shaded lamps and the dark, mysterious kind of chiaroscuro feeling of an atmosphere of that restaurant felt like the kind of thing that we should be going for on this. And so there's a place of danger, a sense of kind of Blanc Bignol and I think, Caravaggio-like chiaroscuro, sense of almost of The Godfather, something gangsterish about that restaurant, which both appeal to us as suggesting a place where a family can get together, but where people stab each other in the back.
And you mentioned that this season you're sort of adding a love story dynamic to the show with that Andrew Scott character as the priest. What was it like adding that dynamic to the season? Compared to how it was working on season 1.
Well, you've got that focus, haven't you? Because you've got a character who is, in some ways, another Fleabag. He's somebody who has, as it turns out, his own difficult sexual past and there's a hint of sexual addiction in how he describes his own previous history with women. And so you have a kind of meeting of, she meets her match in a way, in the form of a man who has his own very strong will and conviction. And in this case, it's a conviction of religion. He has fallen in with God as a guiding light to himself. And it works against her own cynicism and the questioning of herself and the world. And of course, because that strong philosophical clash takes place, that means that she is driven to ask big questions, you might say bigger questions than the ones she asked in the first season. A love story makes you wonder, are you capable of love? Here was somebody who, in effect, killed her best friend, as was revealed at the end of the first season. Someone who has such disappointment in themselves, such self-loathing, really, which led to her need for sex and gratification, is she capable of loving anyone properly if she cannot love herself? And so the story became about someone who came to terms with herself in a deep way, to the point where she could find love. And the seeming tragedy of the ending is in some ways very fitting, because she found out by the end of it that she found her own humanity and her own ability to love and live fully as a human being. So, it was deep stuff we were dealing with, I think.
Yeah, and it was 3 years almost between those first and second seasons. Originally, Phoebe Waller-Bridge hadn't originally planned on doing a second season of the show. So what was your reaction, and how did it feel when you found out that the opportunity for a second season was going to come about for the show?
But there'll be much discussion about whether we do another one. And we went over after the first season, we went for the TCAs, and we're sitting in a Mexican restaurant wondering what the second season, if it was, would ever be. And I think she was stumped and I was stumped. And I was very intrigued when she said, I think we can do another one. And we went out for dinner. I think the dinner lasted about 6 hours, and she told me about the priest and some of the other elements that would be in this new show. But the idea of her falling for a priest, at first, I honestly admit, I thought it was nuts. But then, for all the reasons that I've just sort of explained, it became more and more fascinating and more vital, and the only way to go back. Because the first series was designed really like one movie, with a beginning, a middle, and an end, and a cathartic ending. And if an ending is that cathartic, it's quite difficult to row back from that and find a new problem. But the problems that still arose in her and within her family were seeds and fertilizer for the new series, and it took flight. But the relationship with the priest was the thing that really got her going, and I was excited about that.
And there are no immediate plans for a third season, but Phoebe WallerBridge hasn't ruled that out 100% entirely. Do you think there is potential for more story here, or do you feel like these two seasons really told the story in a full, complete way?
Well, I think it's fair to say they told it in a pretty complete way, but the character is still alive and moving around the world, and if Phoebe wakes up one morning with another Fleabag inside her, then, who knows? It's certainly, I don't think it's going to be for a while.
And, since you've also worked with Phoebe on Killing Eve, which she also created, that's such a different kind of show, a different style of show. It still has her elements of humor, but it's a different genre. How is it different working with her on that as opposed to Fleabag?
Well, Fleabag had been inside her for a long time when we met, because she'd had the play, which had been put on 3 years before. So she really knew that character, and she knew the basis of the story and where it was going. So we were starting from a firmer standpoint in terms of what we were going to make. In the case of Fleabag, it was me working with her on who this person was and how I could help to bring out every possible dimension in her performance. And we worked together on some things, some of the structure of the series. With Killing Eve, that was something that we were starting from scratch with a book that she was adapting quite loosely, and there were all kinds of possibilities. In that case, I was setting up a series, and so I was doing the first 2 episodes of the first season. And that meant a lot of it was about me finding a style that suited the script that she had done, which was, as you say, generically complicated, contradictory, funny, and frightening. And it was about finding a point of view for the characters and the camera that felt visceral and involved, and still was allowing room for humor. So in terms of the framing and the lighting and the performances, you were walking a fine line between comedy and thrills, and that was just a tremendous, exciting challenge for me, because it was working in a different palette and in some ways on a larger scale.
And with Fleabag, both seasons being 6 episodes long, 6 half-hour episodes, as you said, it's sort of like working on like making one feature film. Did it feel like that, as you were making it? Did it sort of the process of making it was sort of that way? Because of course, you're dealing with one writer, and you direct the whole thing, and so is it very much kind of like a feature film?
It did, and it felt. I'm doing a feature film now, and it feels similar, and in fact, making Fleabag gave me the appetite to go and make a feature film, because the feeling of the unity of it, the clarity, the idea of a beginning and a middle and an end, which you have within your grasp, and the challenge of putting those strings together, is, I think, something that you don't get that often in television. That felt like a very rare treat. The sense of ownership that everyone felt over the story was certainly like a movie. And I think we shot it like we did try to shoot it like a movie, and it had a certain cinematic quality, I think, that gets reflected in Tony Miller's work, who also got nominated, I think, for one of the Emmys.
Well, I want to congratulate you for that, for those Emmy nominations, and thank you so much for your time. And I want to thank everyone watching. Please click like and subscribe, and check out more of our Emmy season interviews in our Emmy interviews playlist. And you can make your Emmy predictions at goldderby.com. Thanks again, Harry.
Pleasure. Real good. Bye.